One of the neatest things is that it's not just student lives that are changed, and Robert's proof of that, so I'm going to let Robert share his testimony. Sister Robert McDonald.
Good evening. I choose to sit. I'm not much of a public speaker, so, and I'll probably get emotional. Sorry. It started with me. I was only attending and only planned on working the first Thursday of SOS. I was going to help cook hot dogs Thursday night, and that was my plan of participation with SOS. But between the time I had made plans to do that and the time came around, I was laid off. So I was available that whole week and that whole weekend. So I get with him and I'm like, Pastor Mark, I'm available to do whatever you need me to do, cook all weekend or whatever. So he was like, okay. Just recently had a phone call, email from Tim Cruzmark, and he's like, well, he was looking for somebody to help him with the block parties. I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like, right on my alley, that's what we'll do. So just working Thursday turned into Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, cooking about 1,000 hot dogs. Thursday evening, went like normal, did the thing. Thursday night, we did. After it was all over, there was the little service they had here, and then we went home, came in Friday morning, did breakfast, did 2 block parties, did the evening thing, came back here again Friday night. And Saturday was when everything happened with me. Saturday we came in, did the breakfast Saturday morning, went on to the block party. The first place we went to on Saturday was a place called Heroes Camp. And I was told there would be a gentleman, a very interesting gentleman that would be that's the director of Heroes Camp over there. His name's Pat. And I met and we spoke briefly, and we started our thing, started doing cooking and whatnot. And we're doing the block party, we got the games going, and everybody's having fun. And he comes up and says, well, I'd like to speak to the people if it's all right with you, and I'd like to say something. And we're looking at him and I went, knock yourself out, go ahead. And he starts talking about, it's kind of an inner city youth thing. He starts talking about all the kids that don't have the dads, and all the kids that can father children, but they don't really do anything. They just father the kids, and that's it. And you never see him again. And he's got fathers that he has to deal with that don't take care of the kids, or kids that he's got to take care of that don't have a dad around. And was talking about how a lot of the dads, well, they're all up in county because they haven't paid their child support. They're all sitting in prison, sitting in jail because they haven't paid their child support. And I tell him, I said, well, that's kind of hit a sore spot with me because I've been paying my child support, which has just recently ended, for the last 19 years, and I have 2 children that I've seen twice in 13 years. And it kind of, like I said, it kind of hit a sore spot. You've got all these guys that are not doing the right thing, and I'm trying to do the right thing. And when I mentioned that, and I got all emotional, he comes over to me, grabs a hold of me, starts speaking in tongues, starts talking, starts praying. And like I said, he hadn't grabbed a hold of me. I've never experienced anything like that. Never had anybody. I mean, I've been prayed for it before, but not like that. And he grabbed a hold of me literally in more ways than one. And so, he prayed, he spoke, and he was done. And we spoke a little more, and I went back to my thing, he went back to doing his thing. And at the end of the day, we gathered up. We go to the next block party, and that's where I ran into Sheila. And she'd asked me, how things were and what was going on. And everything's been fun, and blah blah blah. And she's been kind of after me. I don't want to say after me, but her and I have been speaking back and forth for years about, hey, you need to do this, you need to commit yourself, you need to give yourself to the Lord. And I'm like, yeah, but, I want to wait till the time is right for me. I want to be able to feel it. I don't want to just say, okay, and get up in front and go to the whole spiel and say what you want me to say and then go on about it and it's not over with. Long story short, she's like, well, did you plan on sticking around tonight? This is Saturday night. I'm like, yeah, we were going to stay Saturday night, no problem. She said, okay, something's going to happen tonight. I want you to be there. Okay. We get back to the thing Saturday night. We get back to before the spiel at the church, or in here. And I said something to Mark. I said, something happened. It was kind of neat. And I'm going to tell him a little bit about it. He's like, oh yeah, I've already seen the pictures. Of which I still haven't seen these pictures. And then I get little bits and pieces. I guess it got around to quite a few people that what had happened, and then a lot of people had seen what had happened. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And then Saturday night we come in here, and I'm sitting back there in between the two sections, just sitting on the edge, just sitting there. And the first couple of songs played, and then they're like, well, if anybody wants to do, come before and come up and say anything, we're all going to be here. And they've got people all over the place. And they're playing more music, and got more songs going, and there's people all over the place, and they're walking around, and they're hugging, and they're praying, and they're crying, and everybody's doing their little thing. And as I'm sitting there, I get like this, I want to call it a vibration. It was almost like a humming throughout my entire body, where it was just, I couldn't explain it. My wife sitting next to me, she said she didn't feel it. She didn't feel it, so. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, I think I need to go talk to Sheila. Sheila's up here, I'm in the back. It was darker than it is now, and I think she was looking at me, even though she may not have been able to see me. I think she knew that she was looking at me. And so I stand up, and by the time I stand up to come down this way, one of our other girls goes and talks to her, so I'm okay, I'm standing out there at the end. And kind of slowly walking up, listening to the songs and watching, and then she gets up, and then I walk a little closer, and then she sits down, and another girl gets up. I'm like, okay, here we go. So then I get about 2/3 of the way down, they played another song, they started the third song, and I'm like, I really don't want to be sitting up here in front of everybody, no music playing, I'm the only person standing there. I really didn't want to do that. So I'm waiting, kind of getting impatient, but kind of not, but I'm not to the point to where I'm like, well, I'm not going to, no, never mind, forget it, it's a bad sign, I'll just go sit back down. Well, that wasn't going to happen, so I'm just sitting there. And then she gets up, she goes and sits down. So by then I'm over here, all the way up at the front, and Sheila's over here, and as she walked away, I went up and I asked her if she had time for one more. And she said, always. So we started, she started praying. She said, well, what do you want to do? You've got to say it. And I'm like, well, I want to give my heart to the Lord. I want to give my trust to the Lord. And she grabs me. And then Andrew was here. He grabbed a hold of me. There was another kid. I still don't know who this was. I don't think I can remember. It was an orange t-shirt. He walks over. And then Bobby was up on stage, and you guys all know how big he is. And we're all talking and doing our thing, and she's praying, and I'm praying, and I'm crying, everybody's crying, hugging, and I get up, and then I go to give him a hug, and it's like, you're trying to hug a tree. But, and then, that was what I did. It goes from, wasn't planning on doing hardly anything to a life-changing experience, just because, basically, I got laid off. Because if I wouldn't have got laid off, I wouldn't have came Friday or Saturday, because I would have been working. So,
Robert's been in our church for years, and Robert's a guy that, as pastors, we know that he likes the Lord. But if we had a cookout, he was there. If we had a garage sale, he was there. If we had a gathering, he was there setting up and tearing down. He was always around. It's just one of those things that you could tell God was at work. And people have had open conversations with him. But he wasn't there. He didn't want to get hypocritical. He didn't want to do it because we wanted to do it. He wanted to know that the time was right. So it's one of those things that student weekend goes above and beyond. And we come here anticipating going out and blessing our community. And here's a guy that just came here to kind of help cook hot dogs on Thursday night. And by the end of the weekend, is in the family and knows where he's going to spend eternity. And it was so cool to see Sheila walking back. Right when I shared this in our church. And Sheila got to walk back to his wife, who's very active in our church, helps, is on our church board. And Sheila was able to go back there and introduce her to her new Christian husband. And that was awesome.